My name is Gary, and this is the story of how my life took an unexpected, dramatic turn. I'm 39 years old now, and my ex-wife Rebecca is 33. Our story started with a chance meeting at an air show. She was there with her father, Ronald, a retired Marine. I first saw her while we were both at a soda stall, away from the hustle and bustle of the main show. There was an immediate connection between us. We exchanged numbers and started meeting up regularly. Before long, we were dating, and 3 years later, I proposed, and she said yes. Meeting Rebecca's father was a significant moment in my life. Ronald was a decorated Marine, part of the first land operations in Operation Desert Storm and numerous other missions around the world. He rarely spoke of his experiences, and some were so traumatic that he preferred to keep them buried. Despite his prestigious military career, Ronald's mental health had deteriorated over the years. He battled PTSD and other issues, living a strictly regimented life, waking up at dawn, exercising, and taking his medication. Yet, there were nights when he would wake up screaming or behave as if he were on a mission. To manage his condition, his impressive collection of guns was kept locked, accessible only under supervision. When Rebecca and I married, Ronald proudly walked her down the aisle, dressed in full uniform, his medals shining, a testament to the life he had lived and the pride he took in it. Rebecca was his only child, and with no other immediate family, he stayed with us for companionship and oversight. I didn't mind this arrangement. In fact, I welcomed it. Having lost my own parents years ago, I was happy to gain a father figure. It felt like everything was falling into place. For the first 3 years of our marriage, life was good. Rebecca had started working at a local marketing firm while I continued my job in a tech company. We decided to move into Ronald's house, agreeing to pay the bills as a way to cover rent. Ronald seemed happier than ever. Our evenings often consisted of shared stories and beers. I'd listen as he recounted tales of his military days, speaking fondly of his comrades. His condition improved, and the screaming episodes at night all but disappeared. It felt like we had formed a peaceful, supportive unit. Rebecca was everything I had hoped for in a partner: beautiful, caring, and loving. Our intimacy was passionate, and while there were occasional nights when I had to stifle her sounds to avoid waking Ronald, it only added to our connection. We decided to put off having children for a few years so we could focus on enjoying each other and living life without too many responsibilities. We traveled, took vacations overseas, and cherished those carefree days. Ronald's love for guns never waned. I occasionally took him to the shooting range, where he came alive, transitioning into the skilled sharpshooter he had once been. It was clear that, despite his PTSD and reliance on medication, he was still as sharp as ever when it came to handling firearms. I held the keys to his gun safe, believing it was a necessary measure to ensure his safety and ours. But life has a way of changing. Last year, I received a promotion at work, which came with increased responsibilities. The late nights at the office meant that my usual evening beers with Ronald became less frequent. Rebecca, too, started coming home later, citing an increased workload. I noticed a shift. She was spending more time on her phone, often lost in messages, and had started going out for girls' nights. It was the first time in our marriage she'd felt the need for such outings, and it made me uneasy. Ronald sensed it too. Without my regular company, he grew withdrawn and began showing signs of distress. One night, I found him wandering the house, eyes unfocused, holding an imaginary gun as he whispered commands into the darkness. It was a chilling reminder of his struggles, and it seemed as though something in the household had shifted. My concerns about Rebecca only grew. The intimacy between us had waned. She seemed distracted and less engaged. Once, during an attempt at closeness, I noticed her attention drift to her phone. Frustrated, I pulled away, and that night ended in an argument that stretched for days. Ronald noticed the tension and approached me, sensing something was wrong. Embarrassed but desperate, I shared my worries with him. His response was simple but sharp: "Don't ignore the signs. You need to look closely." Ronald's advice stayed with me. His words carried weight, given his background and sharp instincts. That night, as Rebecca slept, I took his suggestion to heart. I unlocked her phone and scrolled through her messages, finding nothing suspicious. It made sense now why I'd never found any evidence before. Determined, I installed spyware that would sync her phone's activity to my laptop. It didn't take long for the truth to surface. The very next evening, as I sat at my desk pretending to work, notifications from Rebecca's phone started appearing. The conversations were explicit, each message a dagger to my chest. She was texting another man, and it was clear from their exchange that their relationship had already become physical. My hands shook as I read further. The man wasn't just anyone, it was someone she'd been seeing for weeks. The final blow came when I saw her sending intimate pictures. Tears blurred my vision as anger surged through me. They were planning to meet the next day, taking advantage of my business trip. I was supposed to leave early in the morning, which meant they would have the house to themselves. My mind raced as I considered confronting her immediately or catching them in the act. But before I could decide, I watched as Rebecca began deleting her messages, meticulously erasing any trace of their exchange. Now I knew why I had never found anything before. That night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep beside her. I moved to the couch, staring into the dark. Around 3 a.m., Ronald appeared in the living room, blanket in hand. Without a word, he placed it over me and retreated to his room. It was a small act of kindness, but in that moment, it felt like a lifeline. The next morning, Rebecca left for work as usual, oblivious to my discovery. I joined Ronald for breakfast, and he noticed my unease. He asked why I hadn't slept in my bed, and I hesitated before admitting I might be leaving soon. His eyes narrowed, searching my face. "Is Rebecca cheating on you?" he asked bluntly. Shocked, I nodded. Ronald's expression darkened as he nodded solemnly. He explained that he had sensed something was wrong. Rebecca had stopped looking him in the eye weeks ago, brushing past him like a stranger. Ronald revealed that he had stopped taking his medication, saying he didn't need it. He listened as I told him everything I'd seen, and tears welled in his eyes. For a long moment, we sat in silence. Finally, he spoke. "If you choose to leave, I won't hold it against you." I told him I planned to confront Rebecca and her affair partner. But Ronald shook his head and said, "It's not necessary. You won't gain anything from that. Let it go." I felt a deep respect for this man who, despite his own suffering, was willing to accept reality without seeking vengeance. I agreed to move out and start divorce proceedings. Ronald nodded, saying it was the right choice. That evening, I packed my belongings and left. I ignored Rebecca's calls and messages, which continued through the night. She had no idea that I wasn't on my business trip. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a call from the police station. My stomach dropped as I answered. The officer on the line explained that Ronald had shot a man inside our home. The man was alive but in critical condition. He had been found naked, as was Rebecca. The story they gave was that Ronald, suffering from his PTSD, had mistakenly believed Rebecca was being assaulted and acted to defend her. The officer said I could post bail for Ronald if I wished. The days following Ronald's release from the police station were surreal. I brought him home, and the silence between us spoke volumes. The kitchen, still marked by the bullet hole in the table, was a haunting reminder of what had unfolded. Ronald's calm demeanor after everything, combined with his meticulous recounting of the events, made me see him in a different light. He wasn't just a man broken by his past, he was still fiercely protective and calculating, a soldier who knew how to defend those he cared for, even when it meant bending the bounds of legality. I realized that Ronald had likely been more aware of things than any of us suspected. The revelation that he had kept the keys to his gun safe, hidden behind the facade of a vulnerable man, only reinforced that he had acted with purpose. It was clear that, despite his PTSD, his instincts as a protector were very much alive. He had chosen that night not out of confusion or a lapse in judgment but as a moment to reclaim a sense of control amidst the betrayal that threatened to unravel everything. Rebecca's calls came relentlessly over the next few days, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I had seen enough, felt enough, and the part of me that once loved her deeply had turned cold. The betrayal was not just an act against me but against the man who had been her unwavering support, her father. Ronald's silent acceptance of the truth, his quiet grief in knowing that his daughter was not who he had hoped, was almost more painful to witness than my own heartache. Word of the incident spread quickly. The scandal around the shooting and its circumstances left Rebecca isolated. Her affair partner, scarred both physically and emotionally, severed ties and left town. Ronald faced no charges, whether it was because of his connections, his reputation, or simply because no one wanted to press the issue, I never found out. He continued with his life, and in his stoic way, made it clear that he had done what he felt was necessary. 2 years have passed since that fateful night. I've moved forward, carving out a new chapter for myself. Trust has been hard to rebuild, but I eventually started dating again. Introducing my new girlfriend to Ronald was a pivotal moment, a sign that life, despite its scars, could carry on. He accepted her with the quiet nod of a man who had seen the worst but still found reasons to hope. Rebecca, meanwhile, lives alone. The life she gambled on has disintegrated. The affair partner who once seemed worth risking everything for disappeared, and the family she betrayed has cut ties. Ronald, ever the enigma, remains in my life, a reminder of resilience and the complicated depths of loyalty. The past lingers in the background, but it no longer defines me. Instead, it serves as a testament to how life can change in an instant and how, despite everything, it is possible to rebuild and find peace. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. Until next time.